Hi, Giovanna Franklin here, international homeopath. And today, this is the second video about polycrests in homeopathy. So once again, what are polycrests? Polycrests are those remedies that have been used for a long, long time. And we had a chance to test them. And so they are used for a much wider range of symptoms compared to other remedies. Now, one of the questions you may have is how many polycrests are there in homeopathy? And the answer is that there is no fixed numbers, partly because there are new homeopathic remedies coming up all the time, and partly because not all homeopaths agree on certain remedies being polycrests. So my answer would be between 30 and 60, depending on which homeopath you ask. So the idea in this series of videos about polycrests is to highlight the remedies that are definitely considered polycrests worldwide unanimously, that you cannot argue with these remedies being polycrests. So one of these is Natrum Muriaticum. And Natrum Muriaticum is the common humble table salt. And in fact, I have got it here. This is Maldon sea salt. You can see it comes in lovely, pretty crystals. And it's interesting to notice that sea salt crystals have a kind of cube formation. And so when you see the natural sea salt, it naturally forms into little cubic crystals. So salt has been used, of course, we know, for forever. But nowadays we take it for granted because it's available absolutely everywhere. It is not expensive. There are some sort of posher types of salt that are more in fashion at the moment, like pink Himalayan salt and this salt and that salt that have special properties. But the common table salt, natrum chloride, is really this. But it was not always this available. It was not always this affordable. In fact, quite the opposite. It used to be incredibly valuable. In Roman times, workers and even soldiers would be paid in salt, and literally in slabs of salt. And this is where the word salary comes from sal, the word for salt. And it was used in religious ceremonies. And even now, in some religious rituals, salt plays a big part. And it almost has a spiritual, esoteric property, as well as a very, very practical property. And really, salt is part of us. Our bodies need sodium chloride in traces, but we do need a certain level, a certain amount of salt in our body. If we don't have enough salt, we can get symptoms like fatigue, heart palpitations, sweats. Our hormonal system really relies on the right levels of salt, which is the reason why Natrum Muriaticum, which is the Latin name for salt, sodium chloride, is one of the tissue salts, or Schussler salts, or cell salts, because it is one of the essential minerals that we need, that our body needs, just like calcarb that we saw in another video. So salt is essential to season our food, to preserve our food in times when our ancestors did not have refrigerators, did not have any other means of preserving meat and vegetables. Salt is really essential. And it was expensive also because it was not that easy to obtain. Now, sea salt, and you can still see this in some places around the world. They still produce salt in the traditional way. It's handmade, hand worked, and in Sicily, for example, in Italy, they still have salt places by the sea where strong men go there and literally break. They need to have pickaxes or whatever really heavy instruments to break up the hardened surface of salt that's been dried up in the sun. And so Natrum Muriaticum in homeopathy is used, being a polycrest, for lots and lots of things, for skin conditions. It is used a lot to balance fluid in our body, and this is what sodium chloride does in our bodies. So if you have any issues with bloating, water retention, and sometimes hormonal imbalances can cause this. Thyroid imbalances can cause this, which is why Natrum Muriaticum is very, very good remedy for symptoms of menopause, when there is fatigue, weakness, low blood pressure. In fact, I have a recent case of a lady in perimenopause who was advised to take HRT, and she did not want to do that. She wanted to try something natural, and her symptoms really were heart palpitations, fatigue, migraine, and low blood pressure. Her blood pressure was pretty low, and Natrum Muriaticum is what rebalanced the whole thing, so that now these symptoms have gone and she is back to normal. So rebalancing the fluids in our body, the blood pressure, if it tends to be too low. A key indicator that you're not getting enough salt in your body is that you actually crave salty, savory things like crisps or chips, or you put salt everywhere, before eating. And salt has been a little bit demonized because of the scare of hypertension, of high blood pressure. And sure, if you do have high blood pressure, of course, the doctors will tell you to limit your intake, your salt intake. That doesn't mean that you have to eliminate salt completely, because, like I say, we do need salt for our body to to function optimally. But for that reason, it's been somewhat demonized. But it's still, salt is still needed. Okay. And because homeopathy works on all levels of all planes of existence, on the physical, on the mental, emotional, salt also has this this amazing quality from the emotional point of view. And as usual, I always go back to the source. So when you think about sea salt and you think about how the sun dries up the water and you're left with these slabs of salt that are very, very hard and that need to be broken into. And this is really the emotional, the presentation, the outer presentation of the Natrum Muriaticum individual, which can be hard, not harsh, but stiff and not prone to display emotions. In fact, Natrum Muriaticum as a remedy famously refrains from showing emotion, particularly tears. And if they do have to display emotions, they have to do it in private. Natrum Muriaticum hates showing vulnerability because crying in public, showing emotions, sadness in public is perceived by the individual as a weakness, and that is the delusion. There is a lot of self-consciousness in Natrum Muriaticum. Natrum Muriaticum cannot go to the toilet if they know that somebody might be outside and possibly be hearing what they're doing. They have this delusion that they are being observed, that they're being judged. Not so much observed, but that they're being judged, that people are judging them. And for that reason, they're very guarded. And they're always trying to display this kind of stiff upper lip. And Mission Orland used to say that Natrum Muriaticum is the stereotypical remedy for British people because, as he was British, because there is this stereotype of British people having this stiff upper lip and not letting the emotions get to them, always keeping their cool, always keeping calm, and nothing phases them. This does not mean that there are not emotions underneath. And again, think about the salt, the sea salt, which is hard, dry, and stiff on the outside, but underneath you will still find the water, and the waters are still running. And so Natrum Muriaticum indeed are, in fact, very sensitive, perhaps oversensitive compared to other individuals, and that is precisely why they have this. They know what it means to hurt emotionally inside, and they have decided that they do not want to be hurt again, and so that's why they create this persona that is somebody very strong, not cruel. I'm not talking about cold and detached, but strong. And in fact, many Natrum Muriaticum people I know go into career paths where they actually help other people because they're very good listeners and they feel other people's pain. They're very often very empathic people, but they do not allow their own feelings to be discovered, to be uncovered, to be shown, because they don't want to hurt. They are perfectly happy to help other people who have emotional issues, or just, you know, your best friend who's always there to listen to your issues, always there to listen to you and to give you good advice. And then at some point you realize that that same friend does not really talk about themselves so much. They're very happy to listen to your problems, but whenever they have a problem, they will not even tell anybody about it, and they will try to deal with it by themselves. Because again, there is this sense of, I need to be strong. Where does this delusion, where does this emotional behavior come from? Very often it comes from childhood, and Natrum Muriaticum being a water remedy, a sea remedy. And again, you can find this remedy in my ebook on sea remedies and my 2-part webinar on my website. If you want to know more, it is a sea remedy. And as we have seen with when we were talking about Calcarea carbonica, the sea is very much linked with our emotional realm, our subconscious, and also with motherhood. And so Calcarea carbonica is related to motherhood in the sense of nurturing, protection, defense, and the link between mother and baby, the attachment between mother and baby. Natrum muriaticum, the state of natrum muriaticum, comes about sometimes very, very early on in infancy, when perhaps this link, this relationship between mother and baby is interrupted for whatever reason, and sometimes in such subtle ways that there doesn't need to be any traumatic story behind it. But very often, if the mother is very busy, there are other siblings, there are other children that she needs to take care of, and perhaps she cannot be present enough for the needs of this very sensitive child. And so this child, being very sensitive and kind of picking up on the atmosphere and picking up on the subtle messages, realizes that the adults around them don't have enough time to give the child the attention that they need. And so this child grows up more quickly and matures more quickly. Natrum muriaticum children are usually very mature. They realize early on that they need to look after themselves. They need to try and satisfy their own needs by themselves. Very often, if they have younger siblings, they become responsible for their siblings as well. Because, as I say, there are family situations whereby maybe there is a single mother who is working all hours, or maybe both parents are working all the time and they don't have enough time, enough quality time to give to all the children, or they did not expect to have a child who is perhaps more emotionally needy than they thought, than they were prepared to deal with. And so this starts really in childhood. The stereotype in homeopathy is the baby who cries and cries and cries. Nobody comes to comfort them. So the child stops crying, internalizes all the emotions, because subconsciously they think, well, there's no point in me expressing my emotions, so I might as well just do my own thing. And this is when this closure starts, and this not showing emotions starts. Very often, children who have a delay, a speech delay, that is not linked to any particular pathology, but it's simply the fact that, again, they don't see the point. And of course, this is not a conscious decision on the part of the child, but it's more an emotional response. The child is not seeing this the adults as being responsive to their needs, and so they kind of shut down almost, and they don't see the need to speak. And in general, they decide, again, subconsciously, that showing emotions is not necessarily a positive thing, and perhaps subconsciously, again, the parents gave this message that, you know, it's not good to cry in public, that you should, you know, get a hold of yourself and control yourself, even as a child. And so they get this message that showing your emotion is embarrassing, brings embarrassment, brings judgment. And so they stop doing it. They simply stop doing it. So one of the worst things that can happen to a not mure individual is bursting into tears in public and having people go and comfort them. They absolutely do not want to be comforted. They just want to go away and alone and deal with their emotion, and then come back and everything is fine and the makeup is back on and everything is absolutely great. So yeah, so this is really the great emotional state of Natrum muriaticum. This is why it's a very good remedy for those who have perhaps been through trauma, or emotional pain or grief, bereavement. It's a great remedy to give in combination with Ignatia, which is a great remedy for grief. But when the grief is maybe not being processed, it's not being allowed to be processed, it's been suppressed, then Natrum Muriaticum first, and then Ignatia once the tears finally come out. You often find that a Natrum Muriaticum patient really holds everything back, holds everything in, and then something will trigger them in therapy and the floodgates open, and that's the tears, that's the water underneath the crust, the hard crust of salt. So this is everything for Natrum Muriaticum. As I said, if you want to know more and if you want to explore sea remedies in particular, and see why they are different and what they represent, you can go to my educational page on my website. I'll put the link below, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.